community input and moving it right before correspondence.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, residents of Litchfield, and welcome to the January 20th, 2021 school board meeting. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you have any revisions to the agenda?
We do not.
I'm just going to make one slight revision, and that is for community forum. This evening, we are starting a new process for community forum where we're going to be doing it through Google Meet. And generally, it would happen right now, and then it would also happen right before we enter non-public. But since this is our first go at doing this, I'm just going to push it down a few moments. It's going to be right before correspondence. So to give the public, if they're out there and want to join, they can join through Google Meet. And that's posted on our website, correct? And on the agenda.
The link is there.
It is.
Excellent. So that'll be in a few moments. So if there is anyone out there in the public who wants to jump on the Google Meet and have public comments, we'll do so in a few moments. So with that, will bring us to summary of non-public actions from January 6, 2021. Mr. Myers made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of December 16, 2020. Mr. McDonald, second. Motion carried by roll call vote. Mr. Burke, yes. Mrs. Harrison, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mr. Myers, yes. Ms. Hirschberger, yes. To then bring us to presentations and recognitions, which I don't believe we have any this evening.
We do not.
It's not in a shared drive.
So this will bring us into correspondence, and we'll give it a moment in case someone does jump on. Again, if no one, or if you miss it, there will be another session down towards the end of our meeting prior to going into non-public. Like I said, I'll just give it a moment or two, and we'll wait and see if someone jumps on. And if no one does, then we'll just continue on.
Sorry, Brian, while we're waiting, we did receive an email today from Debbie Rice. She was requesting a little more flexibility with the policy regarding spectators at sporting events for basketball.
Yep.
She's requesting some sort of a sibling test. So that was sent to the LMS administration, the two athletic directors at LMS, and GCC the board.
Was that the only correspondent?
Yes.
Okay, because I was actually going to bring that up in school board comments, where Mr. Leckletter is here. And I know it pertains to all the schools, so I figured Dr. Jetty we could probably address it now. I mean, if it's possible, because I know that during fall sports that Josh Knight communicated with other ADs, and they more or less came up with a set of guidelines themselves of what they would accept and what they wouldn't accept. And I don't know if it's the same thing for the winter sports right now as far as attendance and the number of people.
So my understanding in speaking with the athletic director at the high school and the middle school is sort of following along with the same procedure.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different when you're talking indoor sports. Although we did have volleyball running in the fall. And so the local ADs have coordinated around this. One thing that threw a monkey wrench into it is that the bleachers at the high school jammed up again. And so they weren't able to deploy them and get them out. And so you went from being able to sort of spread out across a full bleacher set to, I think, limited space on the floor where the bleachers would be, which is a different scenario. You just lack that vertical height. So because of that, he had to modify on the fly. And then I asked the question, are we getting the bleachers repaired? And so there is a repair order in to get that taken care of. So I think that was the monkey wrench that went into it. And in terms of the middle school, I'm not exactly sure what happened with
what we did with volleyball is everyone had 2 tickets. Every family had 2 tickets. It followed along with the Tri-County League, sort of what there were some schools with no fans, but really the 2 fans was what some schools had done. As I understand it, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I'm pretty sure that Josh was looking at the same thing for the high school with 2 tickets. So that's where the 2 tickets came from. The request was to add more than 2. It's a tough one. We haven't had a home game yet. And as you say, indoor is different than outdoor. It went really well with volleyball. We had no issues. Everyone, they write their name and number on the ticket. If we need a contact trace, we can. So I'm a little nervous to go outside 2 tickets before we have our first home game. I'd kind of like to see what that looks like, how that goes, and then talk to the ADs and have a conversation from there. So I'd like to get through our first game and see how it is, and then
Because we are one of the
Go from
districts that
there.
are allowing away fans also, correct? I know there's some schools that don't allow.
yeah,
any away
I don't
fans.
know.
So that was in the plan, but when the bleachers got stuck,
So it's just home?
we made it home only. So again, we didn't have any visiting fans in the gym.
I thought for basketball for LMS that fans were not allowed at each other's schools. I thought that was the agreement.
I thought
So
that was
I
statewide.
don't think that we're going to have any away parents coming to our gym.
Could be wrong. We thought that was the statewide recommendation.
That's what I understood
Is
from
it?
the league, from the Tri-County League.
Let me do this. The fact that we're all sort of questioning, I'm going to ask the athletic director to get a nice message available to the community on exactly where we are. So, we can get that out and let everybody know exactly what the situation is.
And I
then-
understand Deb's concern. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I've been swapping off the ticket. I mean, I've had 2 of my daughters go to like one of the games with my wife because, it's one opportunity to go. So it is difficult, but I also understand that I think what's most important is we're allowed to play sports right now. And I understand as far as minimizing, but if we're not, especially if we're not allowing other fans, that, maybe we can take a look at, can we add at least one person? Is that, because I think when you're doing volleyball, you had outside fans, right? From the other schools.
Not at our games. I'm
No.
not.
But I think the
And
high
I-
school did.
I know, speaking from my own experience, and we were in the same cohort. We weren't. As a parent, I wasn't allowed to go to away games for my own kids. So
We also have to look at the 2 gyms. I mean, think about the bleacher set at the high school and compare it to the bleacher set at the middle school. So, again, they may be different sets of rules because the gyms are not the same. So we'll examine it all, and I'll have Josh send out a clear message so people know where we are.
the other thing that's been nice is we had our first away game yesterday, and we were able to stream the game. So
Yeah.
providing other options, I think, is important too.
And that's the other thing I was going to mention. I think I heard you say before the meeting that whomever did the streaming is going to continue doing so.
Yeah.
So they'll be on Facebook.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. Yeah. So we can get confirmation from Josh exactly what's the stories with that. Good. All right. So has anyone joined?
So this is the public session that's up on the screen, and there's nobody asking to join. So at this point, I'm gonna close that out until the second session, I guess.
Yep. So we'll close community forum and just move on. And like I said, there will be another one towards the end. All right. And that will bring us to superintendent comments.
All right, we'll get back to this meet. So a couple of things. The budget hearing was held last week. There were a handful of community members who attended that. I think the board was in attendance. I thought things honestly got a little bit contentious where they don't need to be getting contentious, but they are. Did our best to sort of respond to concerns that people had, but I'm just curious if the board has feedback or suggestions for us going forward. Because I think the next thing is to prepare properly for deliberative session on, and that's the next topic that I wanted to talk about, but getting ready for February 6th at 1:00 to make sure that we are ready to speak to any questions or concerns that get raised.
Does anyone have anything? Thoughts?
We're not cutting a position at GMS. Like, they are still going to have a reception. It's only school year, right? They're not going to work in the summer. They're still I think that was confusing to some people because we're not cutting the receptionist position. It's only, you're making it part-time instead of full-time to match up with the other schools.
We're aligning with the other two schools.
Yeah,
That's a really good point. That a receptionist is a position that is basically school year plus a few days before and after, in order to receive the public who are coming in when students are in the building. And that's exactly what we're doing at Griffin. We're making sure that that receptionist person is there and the hours are there to support receiving the public.
because if I had just tuned in, I would have thought you were eliminating the position altogether with some of the dialogue. I don't know. Did you pick up on that, Tara?
Yeah.
It
Yep.
seemed like you were just cutting the position if you were just tuning in for the first time. So it is, there's still going to be a position.
Yeah. So at Griffin, there are currently 3 people in the office. At the next year, there will be 3 people in the office. However, one of those positions will not be working year round. So they're not going to be in the office during the summer when school is not running. So the 180 school days, there will be 3 people in the office, plus a little bit before and after to make sure that we can staff it. And that's exactly the staffing level that's been at Campbell and at the middle school. So we're just aligning it and making sure that the hours are equal. That results in cost savings for the district. And it's the right thing to do in order to have the offices staffed equitably across the 3 schools.
And it also expands the hours
Right.
on the other individuals.
Right. In order to achieve that equity, both the middle school and the high school have struggled with their reception hours because I can't do it off the top of my head, but say it's 6 1/4 hours, it's not enough to cover the full day. So basically now the hours will be expanded in length on the days when the receptionist is there so that they can be there the whole daytime. So I think it's a big win for all 3 schools because we'll have the staffing at the time that we need the staffing. And, going back in history as to how we got to where we are doesn't much matter any longer. We're now making sure the 3 offices going forward are staffed identically and have staff at the time that we need them there.
Mike, I have a question.
Yes.
Are those staffing changes linked to whether or not the tech integrator passes, or are those happening no matter, regardless of the warrant articles?
Well, that would be for the board to decide, but we budgeted as if that was going to happen. So,
Okay.
And this is a topic that's been on the board plate for a while. So this is not something that has just come out of the blue.
Right. My understanding was that this was we were going forward with reallocating those hours before we brought up the tech integrators on the warrant.
About a year ago. Yeah. Or
Right.
That is absolutely the case. And the other thing is the same thing. We simply identified cost savings in personnel in order to add personnel. So I thought it was, instead of going to the taxpayers with our handout saying we need more money in order to get these positions, we came forward and said, look, we identified 2 positions at the high school that are not necessary due to decreased enrollment and reconfigurations. So we'd like to absorb those as cuts and apply those funds toward the positions we need, the tech integrators. We've identified a change in staffing in the front offices of all 3 schools. And at the end, it results in a little cost savings. And we want to apply that toward the tech integrator. So, we're not going to the public just with our handout saying more. We're saying we've identified some, and now we need you to partner with us in order to support the positions that we need. So that was really what the whole approach was. There's been a lot of energy talking about the GMS staffing realignment, but there were 2 teaching positions at the high school, which were added up to real money too. And, we identified those as something that we can do and then hoping to apply it toward the desperately needed tech integrator positions.
Right. Which is a top priority for the district. We really need those moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just two other
Right.
quick points too, in reference to the realignment of the staff at the 3 schools, that the union agreed upon this. And also we held off. We could have gone ahead and done this effective like a month or so ago. And instead we figured we wanted to give them due notice and told them we'd finish out the rest of the year as it is right now. And then it'll start next year.
And the other key point is we'll follow a process outlined in a CBA. There's no, we've never identified a individual because there's a process that we need to follow. We don't know who the individual is. So there's a boatload of steps that still need to be taken. And that some of the conversation is leapt to conclusions that are just they're not factual. It's not the plan. All right. Anything else on the budget hearing? First time I've been in a virtual one, so that was kind of interesting, but it seemed to go okay. All right. Deliberative session. So on Saturday the 6th, a reminder to the board that both town and school are going to go on that day. Town is going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning. School is scheduled to start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're just going a little bit later in that day. And it will be in the gym as a live gymnasium meeting. So
How is that going to happen if the bleachers don't work?
So apparently we're going to spread out on the floor with seating on the floor. So,
Those seats are so uncomfortable.
let's hope the bleachers are repaired by then, but
Is there a possibility we can like expedite whomever is coming in,
we will do our best.
at least
But
pull them out?
if not, we will be on the floor and we'll make it work one way or the
Call a
other.
cushion seat.
I think the moderator was the one that
I'm bringing my stadium
For the
seat that I
attendees
used
to be on the
watch
I bring
football.
mine to Alvern, yeah.
because it was easier. It was much more efficient to social distance that way. I think that it was his point.
Oh, so he wanted seating on the floor?
He was the one that wanted to see.
You can fit a lot of people on the floor. I mean, just as easily.
I think
so.
you can,
Yep.
and we could always put the stage up against it, and gives you more room without those bleachers pulled out
Yeah.
too.
It won't be steamy hot.
What's that?
Won't be as hot as it was the last time we're in
No,
there.
No, it won't be like that
No,
July
not.
meeting.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I'm whiny tonight, sorry.
I actually have I have PD that morning that I signed up for. So I'm going to be in my office working. I'm scheduled from 9 to 12. So if you need me, I'll be there. But I don't think I have to be at the town portion. So,
I'll be there.
but you know where to find me if you need me. All right. And then the last thing I just wanted to talk a little bit about was the parent meetings. So the principals had hosted the parent meetings with remote parents. We talked about that last time. Looking over the summary notes, and Principal Eckleiter can pitch in if he needs to because he helped to run one of those. Basically the key talking points out of them were the Wednesday schedule. So we're going to look to redo the Wednesday schedule so that it won't be quite as, if, and I'm putting a big capital I, capital F, if we go remote again, that the Wednesday schedule in remote will not be drastically different from the regular schedule. So basically we're going to try to mirror as close as possible the daily schedule that our students are experiencing when we go into remote.
I'm confused.
And what that means is that on Wednesday of a remote week, we would have an early dismissal. We would end early. So instead of sort of absorbing the additional planning time that the teachers have as part of the MOA into the schedule, it'll just be out there as we're getting out early on Wednesday. But that'll keep our remote students in the familiar schedule. And our in-person students will have a familiar schedule too. They're just going to go through their schedule. On Wednesday, they'll get out early. And it'll look the same. So I think we had really good intent in developing the schedule that we did. But an unintended consequence was it became a little bit crazy making for remote students and in-person students and families. So that's an easy fix. It was good feedback, good to hear. We can make that adjustment. The other thing is that the principals are focusing on better connections with the remote students. And making sure that they really feel connected and part of the school. And, so that was a loud and clear message that came out of the conversations, and we are engaged in that work. The high school, as you know, is bringing closure to the first half of the year, and we'll be starting new classes. So it's a great opportunity in the mid-year to sort of focus back on the remote families. And I know that when new classes start, remote students will be invited in. They'll have an opportunity to meet their teachers in person, just like they did in September. because it is September and January, if you would. So the high school is building that in to make sure that they are comfortable and ready to go. And then the last thing is, I think there was an aha moment of, we should have done this 3 months ago. You don't know it until you do it, and then you say, we should have done this sooner. So all 3 schools the week of February 10th, February 8th, have scheduled follow-up sessions. So there are follow-up sessions on the books. Remote parents will be invited again to have feedback. And I just want you to know that that is scheduled and planned at this point. So what did I miss out of that?
Yeah, no, it was great feedback, and I really appreciate it. I think it was all of that and a little bit more. I think the biggest challenge all around with this pandemic and as the middle school principal, I mean, middle schools are all about community. Schools are all about community, but really middle schools is about building that spirit, building that community, and it's a challenge, in this time. So really having an awareness around that, having that empathy and understanding, I think is really important, and not just saying it, but really reassuring students. So that's been just a really big thing. There's little opportunities during the day to just show that empathy, slow down a little bit, take a breath, and just help our students know that we know, I guess, is really the bottom line on that. At the middle school, as you know, like the other 2 schools, we use Google Classroom as our platform. There were just some little things that I would say maybe some inconsistencies that we had some conversations about at our grade levels that was helpful. So that was also good feedback. And like Dr. Jetty said, I think just continuing the conversation, it's really important. And I said this in our meeting that, and I know this as a parent myself, the worst thing is if you have something on your mind that's a concern, that's something that to us, maybe it's just a blind spot or it's just sort of white noise because we're in it every day. But it is something you can make us aware of. That's really helpful to have that feedback. So I think having another one in 6 weeks is great. And in the meantime, any other feedback, that's sort of happening on a day-to-day is helpful, both from in-campus and from our remote learners. So it was very helpful.
Perfect.
All right, that'll bring us to school board comments. Does anyone have anything?
I just wanted to put a plug in for these high school parent info sessions that have been being conducted on Wednesdays. I actually attended last week. I mean, they're serious topics: depression, motivation, peer issues, and others. And I was able to attend last week's, not today, but I think those are great things to bring to the community and to parents and guardians. And I know that there's one more week of the session. So if you're interested in exploring some of those issues, I think that's try to find the link and join the Google Meet. And, they're there to help all the parents and guardians out there with issues that their kids may be facing during this time.
Excellent. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything? All right.
I just wanted to say the ring in which to throw your hat, if you are interested in public office, open today. So we will have 2 seats. I know Rob is not planning to run, so there's one big open seat on the school board. There are openings on the select board and the budget committee, as well as trustees of the cemeteries, the libraries, lots of different positions available. So I would encourage people to step up and have a hand in how we operate our town and our school district. It's been a very informative, eye-opening, wonderful learning experience for myself. And I'd encourage, anyone who feels strongly and passionately about our schools and our town to run for office.
Yep. And you'll need to come to town hall to sign up for any of those positions, and that's open to the public till the 30th of the month. Okay. That will bring us to Public minutes, January 6th, 2021. Is there a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes. On whatever date that was.
January 6th.
January 6th, okay.
Is there a second?
A second.
And Tyra made the motion, Liz second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Tyra,
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and Brian's an aye. Right. So that will bring us to Crystal's report, and that's LMS. That's the wet letter.
All right.
Tom,
Thank you
I,
very much.
I didn't coordinate with you, but if you can do report card last.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tack on the end of it, the
The other schools.
Griffin. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you for that.
Okay, good. So a little bit of a tossed salad tonight. I'm going to start. I want to give an update on the survey that went out regarding next quarter. So for the middle school, we surveyed parents for the time period from end of second quarter to February break. And the results have come in. And interestingly, not necessarily what I would have predicted, but our in-campus numbers are actually going to be down a little bit. So we're going to be down about 10 students. So just specifically at each grade, I'll give you a quick rundown of the numbers. Right now, grade 5, we're looking at 67 in, 22 out. Grade 6, 71 in, 21 out. 57 in grade 7, 32 remote. Grade 8, 67 in and 22 remote, for a grand total of 262 in, 97 out, which is about 73% point something. So 73%. So again, those numbers are down a little bit. Right now we're right around 75%. So and again, that will start on quarter 3, which is January 27th is the beginning of the third quarter. So I mentioned community. I just want to mention a couple of things. Our PTO continues to do a ton of just supportive little things. Obviously hard in this environment, but they put together some gift bags, which was great for our students and staff before break. A big thank you to them and just for their ongoing support. Also, our student council is planning a virtual talent show coming up. They don't have a date yet, but we have a number of students and staff who are going to put on their finest talents. More to come on that. I'll hopefully have an update at my next meeting to give you an update on what was performed there. Could become a YouTube sensation. Who knows? I wanted to recognize Robin Corbeil. She secured the Governor's Fund grant, $7,100.
Nice.
And that will allow us to run additional teams with equipment this year. Even in the pandemic, we're still running Lego Robotics, and the kids are doing a great job with preps, with their robots and that. So thank you to Robin for her work, and also Mr. Isbicki, very supportive in that process. As you know, do your best is our slogan. We're putting an emphasis on the T of do your best, take responsibility right now, recognizing students. I promised I'd give them some quick airtime tonight. So I just want to recognize our first week winners of the raffle. So if they are recognized, their name goes in the raffle. Hunter Brennan, Aubrey McCauley, Mason Prue, Cameron Layton, Matthew Haley. Congratulations. They are our first week winners on our take responsibility, do your best rollout that we're doing. Okay, I'm going to skip the report card. So I'll talk about SAS here, and the interim SAS was given back in the fall, and I think you heard Dan Mitchell talk about GMS. They gave grades 3 and 4. We test all students, grades 5 through 8. A lot of moving parts to this test. First of all, it's the interim SAS. So traditionally, we give the summative SAS. This one, it's similar. But it is a different setup. And there were issues. There were issues around the scheduling of it, as you would imagine. There were issues around the fact that it's synchronous. So we're testing students in a remote platform that is new and different. It's also supposed to be intuitive so that if you put a sixth grader onto the test, it will give them the last year test, not this year's test, because they haven't had that information yet. And in one of our grades, so if you have the information in front of you, if you look at our scores, and I know Dan reviewed this last time with you, you're going to see our scores are all over the place. You know, there's some grades that are, wow, pretty good. There's some grades that are, wow, what's going on? I did want to let you know that Mary has broken down, and I also have the information so that we're not just looking at percentages or numbers of students at each level, but also broken down into within math, within ELA, what are the specific areas of strength and weakness.
Excuse me,
Okay.
Tom, can you explain to people that what is level 4 the best or is level 1
Level
the
4
best?
is the highest.
Okay,
Yeah.
just so
Yeah.
people know. Okay.
And you're going to also see in the scores that grade 8, I actually don't, in my reporting from the state, they did not give me an 8th grade score. Now, Mary did give us a graph with those scores. So just to give you a general idea, they are very similar. Even though there is a grade 8 there, the repetitive grade 6 and 7, the scores listed on grade 8 should be grade 7. So when you're looking at 35, 22, 26, 17, that should actually be grade 7. Grade 8 was very similar, 40, 20, 23, and 17. So, good news is we had a high number of students in level 4. We had a higher number of students in level 2 than 3. So we look at those, and what do we do with the scores? I mean, this is, again, it's an interim. Even though this was the summative for last year, we look at it individually. We want to see, are there inconsistencies? Is there something that maybe a student underperformed or isn't consistent with what we see as their regular performance in the classroom? And then we might dig into that. Our chat team will sometimes use these scores to, again, look at a student's performance in math or reading and language arts, and it's good data for us. The other thing that piggybacks off of this is the modular assessments that we used last year as a it's another way to assess students with this platform. It gives them the testing language, it gives them the process of how the test runs, but it's much more organic in a classroom so that it's not, okay, we're going to take a standardized test today and it's going to be very formal. The teacher can actually walk the students through the testing language, the problems, the questions, what's the intent of the question. And it was much more helpful, I think, using the modulars than a formal standardized format during the year in a classroom. So, both is helpful, but really the modulars. So we're going to be looking at those as a tool that we can use at the grade levels in the classrooms. I was on a call today with it was actually with the Department of Education. The commissioner was in there talking about what does the next year look like for state testing, and they are planning to give a state test this spring, but it's not definite yet. That is the plan. They have a new process for accountability that is not going to roll out until spring 22. So in fairness to the whole situation of the past year, there will be accountability sort of like there was back under Smarter Balance, but that won't be rolled out until next spring. So we'll see where the testing timeline goes this year, but I would expect that again we'll give the summative in April and May as we have in the past.
I just to piggyback, and I think the board should just be aware, as you are, that with changes in DC in terms of leadership, so what one administration saw for testing would waive, the expectations are that the rules are going to be a little bit different. So it's just one more thing that we want to monitor as there's transition at the federal level. So I think the idea that we're going to wait until next spring makes sense because it'll allow the new administration an opportunity to sort of figure out what their belief and grounding is relative to testing. And, and it's really, I'm all in favor of testing. Get us the results, let us dig on it and improve. But then labeling schools based on the testing is the thing that we just don't know what that's going to look like. So I think we just play a wait and see approach to how things unfold.
The other thing, I know I'm on time here, is the remote learning highlights. I just wanted to give a few highlights of things teachers have been doing, and there's a hyperlink into Mr. Gamont's social studies essay. And the one thing I just wanted to highlight in what he's doing there, I'm just going to link into that here. Is just the depth of knowledge of what students are. So the assessment was on the Articles of Confederation, the U.S. Constitution. And these are just some of the prompts that we can maybe discuss tonight at the school board meeting. Discuss the flaws which made the Articles of Confederation an ineffective form of government. Explain the key components, compromise, made at the Constitutional Convention, and evaluate the Federalists or Anti-Federalists, whether the Federalists or Anti-Federalists had a stronger position. And students then find the evidence through the documents, and Mr. Gamont does a great job with his class and his students. But it was pretty neat to see how students are engaging, even in a remote environment, on that material. And then also Ms. Provenzel, who you're familiar with, Learning Commons, has been doing some graphic art, also some research with students. I gave you a couple of samples there of things that they're doing. And she continues to team with teachers to support technology. And also, of course, she teaches the 5th grade library class. So some neat examples there. I just want to wrap up with the all-important, well, two things. First, the construction project. So we are pretty much ready to go with that. They've been doing a few final touches here and there, but it looks great. It's ready to go. The heat was finished up, I think it was last week or the week before, and it's all come together really well. I think I mentioned maybe at the last meeting, it's been a pleasure working with Jeff and the crew. They've just been really accommodating around our needs, and it's just been a collaborative effort. So all around, it was very smooth process. As is any construction project, timelines sometimes get mixed up a little bit, but overall, a smooth process, and we're really happy with it. And the last thing is the LMS links continues to move forward, and we do not have the logo to present yet. I am still working with a local artist on the finishing touches. There's a little thing around just making sure that the links that we use is unique and we have no issues of copyright or anything with it. So I'm hoping by the next time I come in, I'll be able to present the mighty links to you all. Strongest cat in the district, by the way. But we'll have more to come on that, hopefully at the next presentation. All right, so the report card, I'll finish with that tonight.
There's nothing competitive between the schools.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, a lynx to a cougar? I don't know. My money's on the lynx, but Mr. Lonigan, we'll talk. All right. So the report card. So I want to just start by saying I'm amazed at the work our teachers are doing. They've taken on a huge amount this year with the new student information system and a new way of looking at the report card, the new layout, and just within PowerSchool, the student information system, it is a different look, and it's learning the nuts and bolts of a new student information system, but then also it's really the weeds of how you're assessing students and what that looks like on a report.
I could not open the sample that you had sent. It was a link to Cami.
I called and left a message for you. I couldn't get a hold of you. I couldn't open it either. And if I asked if
And
you
I
could
didn't want to create a
forward
Cami.
something, a different form of PDF.
All right, can I pass this around? This is the sample here. I can send that around.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. So in terms of the report card, so we are trying to capture competencies for each content area, each class. We're trying to capture work study practices, and we're also trying to capture an overall grade for the class at report card time. And so what you'll see on the report card is that I think we've been able to, and also thank you to Andrea Stearns, done a lot of work behind the scenes on this. We've been able to capture all of that. I think the layout, now remember, this layout is digital. So when you look at it, it's 3 pages or 2 pages, whatever, however many pages, it's digital. But I think the critical information is there. And the way we are reporting, I mentioned this, I think, at the last meeting, is the first report card of the year is coming out second quarter at the end of this quarter. So next week is the end of term 2. And that's where this will be, information will be delivered to the families.
So it's a grade
So-
for each competency and then another overall.
They're assessed for each competency and the overall, right? So if there's 4 competencies, those 4 competencies are equal weighted, 25% each, that then inform the course grade.
How many grades in each competency do you expect each teacher to give?
So we don't have a number to that. I mean, so it depends. So our UAs are finishing their courses, and we have quarter UAs and semester UAs. I'm just throwing a number out there. I'd say 4 is
I think
probably
4 is fair, any
I
less
thought
than
there was
4.
supposed to be a minimum.
in that range. Now,
4 was the
for a
minimum.
course that like English,
Mhm.
language arts, right? Those are full year courses at the middle
Right.
school. So I'm excited about the fact that with this format, it gives our staff the opportunity to have time to assess the students. So it's
Mhm.
not like a real crunch to say, this is judgment day. Yeah, it is a report
Right.
card, but this is not, you have really a year to build that body of evidence around competency. And by the end of the year, ultimately, by then you have a number of summatives, a pretty good number of summatives for each competency. So you can say with much more confidence by then, I have this, this evidence to support that. Now, for the UAs, they go into it knowing if it's a quarter course, they're in a different mindset, or a semester course for a UA. And I know Campbell is set up by semester long courses.
Right.
So, that's,
But
But
how
the-
do you assess a competency if they're not meeting it? Would that be a 0 for that one if they didn't have any grades in it? Say it was, I'm drawing a blank, like getting information from text, that's a competency, and they haven't met that competency in English yet. So do they get a 0 for that, and that's averaged into their 4 competencies? Is anyone following me? Do I make sense?
so as I understand it,
Because I
So-
know some of it's cumulative.
yeah, as I understand it, the way the system is set up, first of all, in terms of where we are right now in the school year, if the course is ending, and this is the negative side of the coin, but if the course is ending and a student is in that low range, they would receive NYMs if they're in that range.
Not
again,
yet met, okay.
for the competencies, and then the course grade would be an F.
Mhm.
That's like a worst case scenario thing. If the student is in a full year course at the halfway point right now, they would still receive NYMs for the competencies, but they would also receive an NYM for the course grade because they're still in the process of the year. So I don't know if that answers the question.
It does, because the grade doesn't end at quarter 1, or it just keeps
Right.
going. So you
Right.
don't reset at the beginning of each quarter or semester. It's year long.
Right, exactly. It's
Building upon it.
rolling over.
That's how we
over the
do
year.
it in my
Yeah,
school, yeah.
yeah.
Do you understand, Tara?
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I know
yeah,
that I
yeah.
know that that's the direction that we're going. I
Mhm.
just personally don't like it because I think you can never get a fresh start. You know what I mean? Like in life, you have so many opportunities to start fresh, and here
Mm-hmm.
you don't. And I felt like having grades every quarter, you would get that fresh start. Okay, what can I build on? And here,
Mhm.
it's so hard to make up for a hard. Like if you don't
Yeah,
start
you're
strong,
right.
it's really hard to make up for that. So I just do think that has to be.
So I think
You have
that
to make sure parents understand that.
I
and
think
kids,
that if you were to crunch the numbers and look at it both ways. So let's say that we had the halfway point. It was a grade, a number, and it was averaged with fourth quarter. versus rolling over the course of the year. So if you had a student in really dire straits and they had a very low average after the first half of the year, let's say they had a 10, just in order to pass, to get to that average to pass the class, the mathematics of that would be next to impossible because they'd have to. So in a sense, in that case, they don't have a chance. So with this, over the course of the year, so maybe halfway through the year, they're not at competency, but they still ultimately have the same opportunity to prove that with more evidence over the rest of the year. So
I think it's just
it's
hard to
not-
find that short-term motivation, but I
understand.
I understand where you're coming from too, because on the flip side, one of my kids in elementary school, one grade represented 67% of his grade, and it was shocking. And so it sounds like that will help prevent that kind of
Because it's spread
thing.
out over a year. Yeah. It's,
The other thing, I think the other important thing is that we're not just blind to where students are at. Even if it's a different way of doing it, we have a number of interventions that we use with students who are, we always talk about won'ts versus can'ts, right? Kids that just at the middle level, their independence starts to set in, and maybe they're not doing the work. Maybe they're not submitting the work. So then how do we support that student versus a kid that can't do the work? That takes on a very different look. So for the student that's not doing the work, they need a different kind of support than a student who is below grade level in reading or below grade level in math or needs some intervention around math that we can give them that support, get them back on the highway. That's a different conversation than the student who is not providing us the evidence. We know they're capable, but they're not giving us the evidence. That's a different level of intervention and support. So it really is teasing out for each student as we get into this what
Right.
and these are ongoing
It's
conversations. that
also
we're
hard
having,
from
you
a
know.
parent perspective, I'll tell you, because I have one child who's, I mean, his math grade is not that good, or well, it's improving, but it's hard as a parent to see in second semester what kind of measurable impact is he having this semester versus last semester. And and he's brought the grade up like one, like a
Mhm.
like one of the like plus or minus or whatever. And but it's hard for me as a parent to understand what he's doing, like how much of an effect he's really changing this semester. I don't know. It's
Yeah, and math is a little different because in math, the competencies, while they are full year competencies, depending on the unit of study in math, it can take on a different look. Within math, at all our grades, there's geometry, there's algebra, expressions, and so same thing like my experience. Geometry, I wasn't as spatial, but the competency may cover a broader range of math. So within the year, I think there's going to be some, ups and downs, but we want to stay tuned into, like I say, those students that need those interventions and supports, really targeting those and not letting it slide for.
as long as we make sure the parents understand it and make sure that they understand that, it's allowing them more measures over the course of the year to get to the final grade.
So that's the middle school report card.
Perfect. And let me just, if I can just jump on the back of that, and then we can take questions on report cards in general. So
I did link that, the GMS one.
the GMS
You might
one.
have to
So
refresh, but I did link it.
Principal Mitchell has provided this, and I told him it wasn't necessary that he was here unless there were a series of questions, in which case he's available to hop on if you want to ask those. But quick couple of updates and reminders. So at Griffin, we did not issue first quarter report cards. We did the parent-teacher conferences, and we did anecdotal comments only. So it was really an opportunity for teachers to provide feedback in, verbal and written feedback in terms of where students were and what the strengths and weaknesses were. So the other thing is that after teachers came forward with concerns, we sent the report card back to the teachers to revise it. And then this is the format that has come forward. So remember, the teachers have had input into the way the report card is structured and what it is sharing back out. So this is a third grade sample report card, similar to, it has a similar feel to what you just saw at the middle school. So up in this red box are the performance indicators. The only difference is instead of taking the percentages and turning them into letter grades, we're going to turn them into numerical scores 1, 2, 3, or 4. And you can see that a 4 is meeting with independence, a 3 is meeting with minimal prompting, a 2 is meets with constant prompting, and then a 1 is not yet met. So a student who's not achieving it will receive that 1. Same as the middle school, you've got the course grades, and then the individual competencies are listed out. So you can then score those competencies on a 1, 2, 3, or 4 format. In this case, to sort of answer the question that Ms. McDonald asked, you can see that when a competency hasn't been hit, it'll be shaded in gray as one that wasn't covered in that semester. So, in this case for reading grade 3, one competency has a score, the other 2 are shaded out because they were not assessed in that quarter. And then going on to the second page of the report card, the work study practices different from the middle school. Instead of being embedded into each course, there'll be one section on the report card where they will report on those work study practices, again, using a 1, 2, 3, or 4 notation, a space for teacher comments. And again, you don't need a series of comments because you really are with one teacher at the elementary level. And then the unified arts are the last section. So the unified art teachers will have an opportunity to report on the grade that they have, followed by the work study practices. So the unified arts will be in a slightly different spot on the report card. So looking at this, as parents get familiar with this style of report card at Griffin, the shift going up to the middle school is really the letter grade piece. But it's going to have I think there's a flow and a design that will be pretty obvious to parents. And then, of course, when you get to high school and you're talking a credit-based system, it's a different animal altogether in terms of scoring. So questions for us just about where we are with grading and reporting?
How are the teachers doing with it?
So anytime you roll something new, there are questions. There's a learning curve that goes along with it. And so we're just reinforcing that at this point and making sure that people are comfortable. Even the work study practices are tighter and more aligned than they were. So making sure that people have the right rubric to work off of. It's one of those things that you have to communicate a few times to make sure that everybody is sort of following along. But we'll get there, and it's being communicated, obviously. So, have you heard from?
Yeah, I mean, the teacher, it's a challenge. I mean, it's like I started. It's learning a new system, the Power School. I mean, it's not a completely foreign system, but they're all similar but different. So it's just the nuts and bolts of that, and then, like I said, for us, having the competencies literally there in the grade book, assessing each one. I know you've talked about this at other meetings this year, but all of that, I think it's, I don't want to say it's a learning curve because it's not like the teachers understood competency education at the middle school. It's just the way it's reported out and really learning the nuances of the system. I think that whole process, in addition to the fact that we're in a pandemic, is, it's a lot of work. And I'm seeing them put in a lot of time and helping each other. There's a lot of collaboration. I see collaboration within our teams, within departments, within, today there was some work done at each grade level on this. So I think, it's we're moving forward. I think, we're ready for next week, but it's definitely a lot of work. So I think, you know, and this for us at the middle school, and I'm not exactly sure how the high school reported for first quarter, but you know, this is our first report that we've done this year. So
I just hope everybody's working in the same direction. That's all I don't want to see. I hope
Yeah, I mean,
everybody's
there's-
bringing their concerns to you guys and addressing them honestly and openly that way.
And asking
first.
questions, because there's a
Yes.
reason, there's a rubric for each and
Absolutely.
everything that as a teacher, when I put something down, I can prove why your child got this. And every teacher should be able and give them more than one competency assessment for each competency.
and that's why we decided to not have an official report at first quarter, because one, it just gave us more time to learn the system, but two, to collect more of that evidence to give more of a firm, report behind student learning.
Anything else from Mr. Leclerc? So you missed one little piece of good news. Fifth graders got their Chromebooks.
Yes, that's right.
That's
yes,
right.
They did. The fifth graders, what day? I'm losing track.
Tuesday.
But yesterday they got their Chromebooks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if anyone's listening, remote learners, I'd put it out there and stuff. Made the announcements. We've had a number of them coming in, but please come by and you can collect your Chromebooks and switch them out. So
Which
yeah,
nice.
it went really well, smooth, and fifth graders were glowing, very happy.
They have to carry the box around all day.
Yeah, the new box.
Well, what's nice too is it's going to put more of them out in circulation too. The ones that are coming back. I know some of them probably will get refurbed and maybe they'll be salvaged or not, but at least there's going to be a good portion numbers out there available if needed.
Yep.
Is that
Yeah,
the
thank
first
you.
big batch of them that's come in since like when we ordered in March?
So the the order was processed right after the annual meeting for July delivery, I think, or June delivery, and then they just didn't arrive. And then they came in pretty quickly. There were 2 batches that arrived, and so I think we're all caught up. I think they've all come in at this point.
Good.
And I had asked Jason, just if anybody in the public, you walked into your local Best Buy and saw a stack of Chromebooks sitting there, but that wasn't the model we had ordered at the offer that we had, so we had vetted out kind of the one that we wanted from a security point of view. So it's a little bit more industrial, I
I
guess.
say they
in
were
terms
hoarding
of,
it until after Christmas and then let them go. I swear, because we got ours last week too.
well,
Like
it's
see how many they can sell and then send them out to the public.
I
Sorry.
said exactly the same thing. I'm like, they waited because if you
Mm-hmm.
could sell it to somebody for $250, why sell it to us for $2, right?
Ah.
However, Jason said, no, it's a different model. I mean, what we have is just a different model. They may have prioritized which ones they stamped out at the factory,
Mhm.
but either way, we
Right.
got them all in.
Because if you look up the model too, it states a lot as far as educational use. I mean, so this particular model is focused more on that than anything else. And if because my daughter was one who received one, the manufacture date was September 30th. So it just kind of tells you the
September
distribution
30th?
channels right now,
Oh,
as far as how product is being held up and not shipped and distributed. So,
Yeah, the Chromebook is the 2020 Cabbage Patch Kid, right? I remember the day when people are selling those for like $500.
And the
right,
Xbox
show
and
my-
PlayStation.
just dated yourself, Cabbage Patch Kids.
I got one.
I didn't have one.
Nope, not me.
anything else, Mr. Leclerc? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that, it will bring us to the VA report.
All right, so I provided for the board a packet of financial statements, all based on different calculations. So the first one's cash basis financial statement, gives the year-to-date financial position based on actual monies received and what we've spent so far. Going on to the second statement, it's what we call a modified accrual basis financial statement. That's where we start to take into account the things that we know, like the amounts that are still remaining due from the town and from the state, as those payments come either monthly or quarterly. I've also taken into account some interfund receivables, amounts due back from the trustee, where we've paid out $10,000 in scholarships to 2 students that received the Joyce Choate Memorial Scholarship. $5,000 apiece. So those have been paid out. I'll request reimbursement from the trustees. Also, we had the demographic report that we received from the Administrators Association. So we're going to use the Capital Improvements Expendable Trust to refund that cost. So that was $9,000. I've noted on there in the fund balances, the projects and purchases that we pulled out of the budget and put aside for the list, just so that we have that earmarked. At this point in time, that list may grow as we go forward and we have a clearer picture of what the fund balance is going to look like. Based on the modified accrual financial statement, I started to work on some year-end estimate based on basically 5 years worth of what we average expending out of the appropriations budget. That calculation, which could be, of course, a little bit off because of 2020, where we only expended about 95% of the budget. We're still looking in the $1.2 million range for year-end fund balance as of this year, and that's based on a projection made on how much more of the budget that we have that we're going to spend out in that time. A couple disclaimers in terms of, the amounts that are outstanding for contracts and purchase orders. Some of those are blanket purchase orders. They may come in under. We don't know. We set aside a certain amount for certain things, such as electricity, and that may come in under and be closed out under the amount that we put aside for it. So that would be put back into the general fund. So as of right now, with 5 months left, we're in pretty good shape, and I think we're looking at having a pretty healthy fund balance to be able to get after some additional projects as we start to accumulate those lists. I provided a comparative financial statement for the food service showing December 2020 to December 2019. It really illustrates the significant losses in local revenue because we don't have kids in on a regular basis. Some of the things that we haven't been serving, such as a la carte items, things that would normally sell. We have had a significant increase in the federal funding, but that's because they're covering the cost of meals at this point at the reimbursement rates, but it's not going to be enough at this point to replace that local revenue when we have kids in every day. So Lauren is trying to do some things to beef up the local revenue side of things, such as offering meals to students that stay after school or have to travel for athletics. Those would be full price items for the students when they buy them. Those are not federal reimbursable meals that would be at cost. So just a couple things. I don't know if at this point, it's not going to be enough to make up what we've lost so far. She has reached out to other area districts. I'm not going to specify districts that she has spoken to, but what we're seeing in those losses and those deficits is very consistent with 4 other districts that we've spoken to. So this is not unique to Litchfield. This is a nationwide problem for the food service programs as kids are remote and we don't have the meal counts that we would when kids are in on a regular basis. I've taken into account already the $94,000 that we're showing in deficit. I would anticipate, unless under some miracle we end up back in full time for the remainder of the year, I anticipate that deficit's going to grow, and we are going to have to subsidize that from the general fund again for this year, and hopefully get back on track next year. Financial statements. I had emails with Plodzik and Sanderson last week. They received the last pieces of information they need to issue the statements. Then I can do my part of it and get the statements finalized and issued. I'm expecting a draft audit report from them this Friday. So hopefully we'll be able to turn that around pretty quick. In terms of projects, the paperwork for the Canopy project has gone in for the $100,000. As of the last time they updated the sheet on the public school infrastructure fund site, it's still pending payment. So I have not seen it. It has not come in yet as far as I've seen, but it's pending payment. So it's coming. I also provided a summary of the expenditures that we've done towards the ventilation and HVAC projects. That was as of the 13th. So the CARES Act the CARES Act funding, which was the initial $56,000 that we got from the ESSER grant, that has been expended in full. That was $56,500. That was based on our Title I allocation for FY20, I believe, was their calculation. We had funds that we had to give to Tabernacle and St. Francis as they are in our area, our jurisdiction area. So we provided them funds. That $56,500 has been expended. I'll be putting that into for reimbursement this week. There's about the initial $250,000 that came in from the state, which was an additional $300 per student on our enrollment reports. It was $252,300. Of that, we got about $30,000 remaining as we continue to work our way through the projects. So what has come to light as we continue to meet with David Ely and Dick Henry is that there is a grant opportunity through the Public Utilities Commission, the team that they've assembled, which is Design Day Mechanical, and David Ely and Dick Henry. They're going to be working towards a plan on what we could potentially apply for that grant for. The minimum grant would be $150,000. So we will be meeting with them again, I believe, Monday to go through what some of those options are, and they will be working on getting that application in for us to see if we can get some additional work done at LMS. I believe we're looking at LMS specifically for that. Other than that, that's the information that I have provided in my report. Does anyone have any questions on anything that's been provided?
Yeah, Corey, unless I missed it, I thought you stated that you have a listing of projects or possible expenditures that you were putting off that you'll come back to. I don't see a list.
For year end?
Yes.
That's in the, I'll send that over to you. I have that in my budget documents. I had it on the budget summary in the drive,
Yeah.
but I'll share that back over with you so you can see it. It totals that 194.
All right, because I didn't see that. Then I thought you said the report was here. All right.
No, I should have included that as well. I will send that right over to you.
All right. All right.
Do you have any news on if the bleachers can be fixed and if it's reasonably, did you get a quote out of those, on those?
Tonight was the first I had heard about the bleachers at the high school.
Okay.
So we I'll follow up with Dave and see what's going on there.
Thank you.
And remember, the bleachers are on the list of long-term
Yeah,
things that we need
that's
to
what
get
I
after.
was,
And replacement, right? Because the mechanisms are just worn to beyond
Yeah.
repair.
I was
So,
just curious.
but we also just spent money fixing them this summer. So for them to be down again just shows how urgent that's getting.
Mhm.
And one other piece is that our next facilities meeting, so the capital improvement facilities planning meeting that'll take place in February. So that'll be at 3:30 before the board meeting, the first board meeting in February. So our hope is that the conversations that we're having with Dick Henry and Dave Ely will come forward with some more substantial planning. So we're making good headway. But that's the group that we're bringing all that information to. So it's pretty exciting stuff. If we can land this grant, the Public Utilities Commission has put out like $1.1 million available, and we're applying for about $250,000, and that will substantially help the effort at the middle school. So it's really exciting stuff, and we're lucky that we have Dave and Dick to help us through that, because it's planning work. If you've ever written a grant, you learn so much writing a grant when you don't get it. I'd rather have somebody who's written grants in this field. I've never written an energy grant, right? So having energy people write the grant will help us significantly with it.
That brings us to 2021 warrant articles.
All right, so bringing the warrant articles back for the the final vote of the board on warrant article, the operating budget, the warrant article 1.
Oh, that's right. We have to do that. And then they have to sign all 3 sheets, the
Right.
2 top ones and the bottom one, and I'll fix the article for you.
Right. All right, so we need a vote on Article 1. I'll make a motion to not recommend Article 1.
A second.
Hold it, don't you always do it in the affirmative? Don't you do motions in the
That's the
affirmative?
Has to be positive. Just say to recommend and I'll record it.
Okay.
as
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 1.
I was thinking about this. I'm like, I gotta make sure I vote the right way.
Yes. It's a good catch.
A second.
Is there further discussion?
So what do we propose? Is it?
I'm not voting for
The
it.
motion is in the affirmative
Okay, so you're not,
and the default budget is higher than the budget that
Correct.
is being proposed.
I think $600,000 cut by the budget committee is a little excessive. Quite excessive. All right. So we have a motion and a second. I made the motion. Tara second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Tara,
Aye.
Nay.
Liz,
Nay.
Rob,
no.
Tina,
Nay.
and I'm a nay. Motion fails. 0-5 to recommend. Michelle, can you send that to Andrew? Because he was inquiring about that.
I will. We'll notate that on the article and then we'll get that all sent.
Right. And the others we voted already. So,
And just to point out to the board that after deliberative, I'm sorry, not deliberative, back it up. After the budget hearing, we had asked the budget committee to reconsider their votes on Articles 2 and 3, and they did re-vote on those items. And so the warrant that you're looking at has their updated votes. So you can see that they voted 6-0 to recommend Article 2, which is one of the tech integrator positions. And then Article 3 was a tie vote 4-4. So therefore, it's not recommended by the budget committee because they tied 4-4 on the need for the second. So I'm hoping that the public understands again how important that position is to us. And I think the strong votes by the board 5-0 will send that message as to where the board stands on it.
Yes.
But I will say once again, I appreciated the budget committee's willingness to re-examine them because that was really important. So they certainly heard feedback and took another look at it.
and so that form's going around for signatures. There's also the MS-27 that's here at Town Hall that will need to be signed. So if you can stop in sometime this week. And
That's
Over to
budget
the budget
committee.
committee.
what's that?
That's a budget committee document. You guys don't need to sign that.
Yeah. You know, so-
We don't, I do though, right? Well, they need 5 from the budget committee.
You,
As
yeah,
a
you will.
committee member, yes,
Okay,
I
all
believe.
right, so it's just me. Got it. Sorry. All right. Anything else for Corey? All right. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
So that brings us to committee reports, and I think we've already touched on as far as the budget committee. I mean, we've had conversations through the course of the night and of what transpired the other night with the budget meeting. So we're waiting for
Thank you.
deliberative at this time.
Oh, I need to look at that again. Yes, you can have it.
So this will now bring us to New Hampshire School Board Association resolutions.
So all you have to really vote on is the proposed resolutions and the continuing resolutions to give Tina your direction, the board's direction and representation at the delegates assembly.
I think they start on page 34. Quite a big document.
I know, it took a while to get to them.
I know.
It actually starts, well, I don't know, how did I scan it in? I'm not sure, but it actually says proposed resolutions.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't
Helpful to
think
go
there were
last
that
year.
many of them this year, actually.
No, and a couple were submitted after the deadline.
Right.
What page are we starting on?
And there's only 6
I
continuing.
think it was 34. I'm trying to get
Yeah.
to it now.
35,
Oh,
36.
sorry.
30. I was looking at the actual document.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The page numbers that are on there. Oh, that's still
That's right,
not
'cause I
right.
gave you the whole packet. I forgot.
Yes,
Sorry.
it's okay.
Oh, thank you.
It looks like it starts with number 7, correct?
Yes, it starts with the number 7.
This
So
one-
generally, I tend to be in agreement with the position of the NHSBA.
I was gonna say that, yes.
You know, usually I just kind of go along with, well, usually I've been once. But their perspective on it is different sometimes from the school board who's proposing it. Sometimes they have already covered it in another resolution, so they kind of provided their rationale on this document.
Yep.
So for the first one, the COVID-19 funding, NHSBA did not recommend it. They said that they have a long-standing resolution that there shouldn't be any unfunded mandates, and then it falls under that.
Yep.
So,
Right.
does anybody not agree with that stance?
I agree with all of them with the board of directors. I read them over and I agree with all. So I don't know if
Okay.
that makes
Yeah.
it easier for everybody else too.
Sure.
I read through them. So do we want to vote on these individually or just,
Whatever the pleasure of the board is fine with me.
I think last year we did it together.
Did everybody have a chance to read through them all?
I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, everyone did.
Okay.
If there's general consensus and you agree
Yeah.
with the NHSBA, you can so move, and I'll make sure that they're outlined in the minutes for you.
So is there a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to give Tina the authority to vote on the 2021 delegate assembly motions. Is that what it there?
No,
Oh,
you're
we
agreeing.
have to vote on
or-
first.
Okay,
Yeah,
agree.
So,
Yeah, what, Michelle,
supporting NHSBA
supporting
recommendation.
NHSBA recommendations. Thank you.
I'll second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Tara?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Brian's an aye.
I think there are only 7 continuing resolutions. Well, ask me what page that is.
I know.
What I gave my boss and what I have are different from what you guys have.
All right, this will bring us to policy review. These are reapprovals of policies that have been reviewed for changes were found to have none. I don't know if everyone's had an opportunity to go through them all.
I have.
I went through the ones that were up through this weekend. So I've gone through the first 10 and the other ones I'm going to abstain on because I haven't reread them.
First 10. 1, 2.
So through the,
Oh, you went through all the Cs?
yes.
Everything under those.
Although I think I
yeah,
stopped at the annual report.
Everything everything in that category on reapproval have not changed.
9,
Right.
10.
And all I did was reformat the way they looked. That's
Right.
all.
With our new little emblem.
Yeah. So I'll just abstain this time. We still have to revote on it 3 times, right?
Nope.
No,
not
these
for
just-
just
reapproval.
one.
These are just reapprovals.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I still haven't read them, so I'm still going to abstain.
So, can we make a motion? So I make a motion to approve CACB, CBB, CCB, CF, CH, CHA, CHE, CHB, CHCA, CLA, CM. Do you want me to stop there?
Stop at CLA.
Or do you want me to just keep
That's the
going?
one I read.
Yeah, we can-
Then I can at least
Okay.
vote for
Yeah, stop at
FA,
CLA.
FBB, FEA, FEB, and FL.
yeah, but if you stop at CLA, then Tara can vote on it.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said go through. I'm sorry.
And then we'll do the other section afterwards.
Okay.
So stop at,
Stopping at CM.
right.
Am I stopping at CLA or CM?
What did you
CM.
read to, Tara?
Before the annual meeting. So
Stopping
I've
at
lost
CLA.
my
So
document.
CLA.
CLA.
Yeah, CLA.
I'll second the motion. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Tara?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
And Brian's an aye. All right, I'll make the motion to approve, reapprove policies CM, FA, FBB, FEA, FEB, FL.
I'll second.
Rob seconds. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Rob?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Tara?
Abstain.
Liz?
Aye.
And Brian's an aye. 401. All right. Next, we have first read on CBI, evaluation of the superintendent.
Okay, so, and Mike can elaborate on what I'm gonna say. This policy, I realize, I did put in the notes on the agenda that I do understand the board has an evaluation form for the superintendent, which is fine. The New Hampshire Code of Administrative Rules changed, and now there are these in the middle of the policy from paragraph 2 down to down the rest of the policy is what has changed. And it is up to the board on whether you want to revise that to your evaluation or group things that fit under those categories. And I did put in links to the suggested evaluation forms that the NHSBA had for their policies, but that doesn't mean you have to approve those. So,
Right.
So it's whatever the board wishes is fine.
And Michelle and I looked at the categories that are on the document that we've used for my 3 years.
Yeah.
You can link them back. They're not verbatim, but you're not doing something on those that can't be linked back to these. So,
Right.
if this brings us in compliance with the state standard,
Mhm.
then we're doing okay.
I think
It
that's,
just sort of lines everything up.
And that doesn't pose any conflict for the board if it doesn't match the verbiage.
I don't think so, because it says,
Yeah, it all looks.
objectives may be set and progress appraised. So there's kind of like some language in the policy that, allows a little bit more of,
a broader range, I think,
Yeah,
is
that's a good way to
basically
put
what
it.
they're looking at. Objectives, and you've condensed them. Maybe that's a bad word, condensed. It's the word I'm looking for. You can group them all in. They are all included in what you're evaluating him on.
Yeah.
It's the verbiage is just a little different. That's all. And I think that's fine. I don't think that's going to matter at all because that's a private document anyway.
Yep.
And I can take off, if the board chooses, I could take off under C also where it says CBIR 1 and 2, I could take those off. That's that evaluation.
So if we do the first reading, it doesn't include the links under, correct?
I'm sorry.
No,
They're not, I just want to make sure if we do a first reading, those aren't included.
I will take them off. That will not include them. I'll say without that. Yeah.
but we could utilize that form if we wanted.
Yeah.
It's just,
I just wanted to make sure legally, if we approve this where it's under it, it's not.
I can say as revised.
So do we make a motion for a first reading? I forgot. Or is it
Yes.
just read? I'll make a motion for the first reading of CBI.
I'll second. Further discussion?
So I think it's great. The only thing I would suggest we add is a number 11 that is communication with constituents.
But are these the state recommended?
These are the New Hampshire Code of Administrative Rules.
We can
Right.
always, we can
Well,
always add.
we
to
can
it.
customize it to be our own. And I think we've identified communication with, various constituents, including the community as being important.
I would agree with you, Tara. That was one thing that I saw that was missing. It is included in our form, but I believe it should be in our policy too. Communication is a big factor.
So how would you word it?
I would just hesitate to put that because it's
I
so
didn't want-
subjective. It's not objective. I mean, that's totally subjective. There's no objectivity to it because what one person considers appropriate communication, another person might not. I think to me, that's almost the communication encompasses governance of pupils, hiring and supervision, overall leadership. I just hesitate to put something that's totally subjective in there.
I don't think it's the only thing that's totally subjective. I think overall leadership on educational issues.
But that's
You don't think
quantitative.
that's subjective?
It's quantitative. You can look at employee turnover. You can look at test scores. I mean, there's different. I just worry about
Have
the
we?
communication.
No, we haven't.
We just did tonight.
We have.
I don't know. Were you here for the SAS?
Not in relation to, not when we're looking at the superintendent review. That's not in the form. It's not
It's not
in
in the
any
form,
of
but
the
it's part
information
of,
we're
it's
providing.
part of the
That's
data we
part of
look
the
at. I
data we
mean,
have.
as far as,
That's why we have a
Daily
month
and
to look
monthly,
at it.
yeah.
If we put,
It's not aggregated for the whole year or anything. You know?
if we put 11, like school and community relations, it's, it's just I think about everything from, getting ready for deliberative. I mean, we're just constantly just making sure that are communicating with our community and so it's not just, are we going to have a snow day or what's the schedule going to be on an early release day? I mean, all those little pieces, but it's the broader picture of, building trust with the community that we are able to, people can trust us with their children, that we know what we're doing, that we're able to, keep moving forward as an organization. So
it's already incorporated into the evaluation. I mean, it's embedded in the evaluation already.
What did you call it again, Mike?
I called it school and community relations.
There's already one, let's see, relationship with the school board. Why don't we put relationship with the community?
Well, I was just going to suggest relationship and communication with school board and community would probably cover it for you.
It's on one line.
It's not school board though,
No.
it's the superintendent specifically.
No. Relationship with school board and community.
The superintendent's
add
relationship.
community to that.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one?
Oh, so number 5.
Number 5.
Right.
So it'll read relationship with the
Slash
school
community.
No, I
board
see.
and community.
I'll work, relationship and communication with the school board and community, I think covers it really.
That would
Well,
cover it.
Relationship and communication.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that would cover
Yeah.
Tara and Tina's.
Rob's gonna write a rubric for this. He's got his quantitative, qualitative.
All right.
I just always worry about the subjective things,
Subjectivity,
just
yeah.
because you know how things flap in the breeze. Not you, Mike, but just thoughts, how people view things. I just worry about that.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Rob?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Brian's an aye. That brings us to policy FEH.
And the only thing about this policy that has changed is the last paragraph that talks about construction and reconstruction projects of $1 million or more and be covered by a state grant, like building aid grant, and that the clerk of the works has to have the qualifications and title and perform the services and responsibilities of a project manager. Whereas before, you could just have somebody that had expertise in it serve as the clerk of the works.
I'll make a motion to accept FEH first read.
I second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Rob,
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
and Brian's an aye. Okay. That will bring us to,
Getting there with all these policies.
yeah, the 2021, 2022 CHS Program of Studies. And before we start on this, I just want to give due notice to the public that when we're done this, there's a few other things we'll touch on, and then we'll go into community forum. Again, it's done through Google Meet, so if someone wants to get on at this time, and we'll be with them shortly. All right, so the CHS Program of Studies is back to us again.
I believe all the updates have been done
Yeah.
and vetted through the superintendent and the director of curriculum and instruction and assessment.
The only correction I have is there's a website, campbellhs.org. It's not valid.
Which page
That's
is, which
still in
page?
there?
Link does not work. I think I
What
brought
page
up,
is that
brought that up
now?
last year. I don't know.
Shoot.
You don't know what page? All right, so look for the
No, I
link.
just wrote a note to myself.
Right,
Campbell
so we'll
link.
just do a search for that and
Okay.
Yeah.
figure it out. So it's campbellhs.org.
campbellhs.org.
Huh, can't believe that's still in there.
I know you brought that
We'll
up.
find it.
The last one. So is a motion to accept the 2021, 2022 CHS Program of Studies.
I'll make a motion to approve the whatever year that was.
2021, 2022. Is there a second?
CHS
Second.
Program of Studies.
Tara made a motion. Rob second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Rob,
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Brian's an aye. 500. To the coronavirus review and update.
Yep, so just a couple of things. I'm going to display for the board the current spreadsheets. We heard a little bit of this from the middle school, but I just want to walk it through. So we've changed the format that we're now presenting to. Remember, this link has been shared with the community. This is where we are tracking our current cases. If you go to the state COVID website, it basically says there are no cases in our schools. And the data there is definitely stale. And it's at the point that they're, by the time they learn of a case, they'll update and say the last reported case was on January 10th, but it's already gone to zero because it's already worked its way through the 10-day period. So we feel that this is a better, more up-to-date, accurate look. So each day when we have our daily COVID briefing, this is the sheet that we're looking at. So you can see that right now at Griffin, so we're on the Griffin tab at the bottom, there are no active staff or student cases. There is one staff member who is quarantined, and then we project that forward to say, okay, how long are they quarantined? So you can see that the person will come off quarantine on the 25th and be back to work on the 26th. So we try to bring it down to zero as much as we can so the community knows how we're tracking that out. Student cases, you can see that we currently have 6 students today who were quarantined. That will last through the 22nd, and then they're going to drop down to just 2, but that's going to carry us through the month of January. So we'll have a new sheet and a new link that will go out in February so that we can continue tracking. And then we have 2 staff members who are working from home currently. There are 8 who are on leave. There were 5 staff members who were sick today, but there were no additional concerns relative to COVID. So it was a total of 13 staff who were out today at Griffin. I will also put a plug in that we have 2 open para positions and 3 open lunch monitor positions. And so if there's anybody out there who would like to apply and help us out, that would be huge. Because right now, if a para is out, then we're covering the para too. So it's just one more coverage piece that we're monitoring.
So there were 13 out, but only 2 of them are quarantined. The others were just sick.
Correct. It's the 8 people that are on leave.
Okay.
Right. And so this 13 is made up of 8 on leave and
Perfect.
no PD. So that didn't add in, and then 5 who were out sick today.
Okay.
So it adds up to
Yeah.
13.
Can I see the other ones too? Were you gonna
At
go
school.
through the other two?
Yep.
Mike, is the 8 all staff across?
No, just
Th-
GMS.
This is,
No, but teachers, paras,
Correct.
custodial, everything.
it's all staff. It's, in fact, I think there might be 1 or 2 teaching staff in that list, and the rest are support staff. Coming to,
So- I'm sorry.
Yep,
So
go
on
back.
on the teachers, as far as leave, do you specify when they are due to return?
so if you look at that column, you'll see that we've had 8 or 9 out the entire time. So these are long-term leaves that we're,
So there's no expected return date at this time?
that
Or is there?
that is correct.
Okay.
It's possible that if somebody is on, say somebody's using accumulated sick time, because it's an FMLA leave or something, that when that expires, they could change their mind relative to it. But I would expect those to be long-term leave.
So this is just at 8. So 8 out of all the staff at GMS.
Yep.
How many staff are at GMS out of curiosity?
Oh, now you're catching me off guard.
Wow,
Well,
it
so
seems like a
when I
lot.
was asked that question yesterday by Mr. Hirschberger on the news,
Oh,
I
yeah.
answered that we have about 200 across the district. So when you add up, I'm counting custodians,
Right.
paraprofessionals, lunch employees, et cetera. So food service. So I would say that you could roughly say about a third of the 200. So 70 would be,
I think there's more like 90.
and it might be higher because you have
In the
PK.
past,
10% of
on
staff.
newsletters
Yeah,
and
because
stuff,
every
it's been around
Preschool
90.
has a para, each kindergarten
Yeah.
class has a para, they have lunch and recess monitors, yeah.
So 10% of the staff.
So right off the board, we're 10% down on staff.
Correct.
Higher because the
Yeah, sure.
working,
Right.
it's higher because the working doesn't count in that, but they're not in the building, correct?
Right. But the pickle is, depending on who the 2 are, if they're classroom teachers, then you have somebody in the room monitoring the students while the teacher is working remotely. So, if they're paraprofessionals, in some cases, they are working remotely with a student. And in many cases, it's the para is remote and the student is remote. So they're teamed up on the computer to support what's going on in the classroom. So it's a real interesting combination of what is going on.
But so are those teachers teaching remotely?
I don't believe that these 2 are teachers. I do not believe that.
I thought you said 2 or more teachers.
The remote kids get paraprofessional
No.
support, too.
On the leave, I think there are 2 teachers who are on leave, but are not working. They're on leave.
I thought you said they were teaching and they had a parent or someone in their room.
It does, it varies by school.
But in GMS, they're not teaching.
Right.
That's the confusion.
Interesting.
Like we said, this was good. This was posted on the, I just tried to access this document through the district website, the
Yep.
public page. And the link on that page says data COVID numbers, but it's the December 2020
That's what I see too.
spreadsheet,
Yeah.
not the January one.
Okay, so is it a different link?
Yeah,
So-
we'll
and they set
update
it up
that
a little
link.
different.
So
Thank you.
I emailed this link out to families, but we'll make sure that we
Yeah.
I didn't
update the
get it.
link on the
Okay.
website.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me just make a note.
And now to LMS.
So LMS, so basically here at LMS, you can see it changes a little bit in terms of what we're reporting. So we do have 1 staff positive case, and that was actually identified yesterday. And so then you kind of carry it through when the person can return to work, and you can see that they would be eligible to return to work on the 26th. So that's why we sort of follow it through and bring it to 0. And we update these again every day, because if that goes to 2 tomorrow, then you're going to kind of track that through and try to get it to 0 the best that you can. So that's our strategy in terms of reporting to the community. I'll give you another nuance to that when we get to the high school one, just so that you can see how these can kind of play themselves out.
Mike, can I just ask, who are the travel related? Is that just students? The column right here?
Yeah, so it's students, but it could be a staff member.
Oh, okay.
So if we had, trying to give an example, let's see, we have a staff member who is now in the working column, So it's one of these 8. So it's a staff member who is working from home, not in the building, but working from home, who was a travel related due to essential travel for family medical situation. So they were tracked as a travel related quarantine, right? And then they worked over into now they're working from home. So we're trying not to double up and over report on it.
So this 3 for staff quarantined?
Yep.
Are they counted as working at home also if they're, that's what I'm
If
trying to get these numbers.
if they're working from home, they're in that column
in
too.
that column.
Yep.
So the number under total staff is the staff that are out not working, correct?
Correct. And in some cases, the person is quarantining, but they're perfectly able to work from home and they choose to do that. In some cases, the person is quarantining and not able to work from home, and then that's recorded. It gets again, that's nuanced on it.
And how many at LMS are on leave?
There are 4 people on leave at this point. There are 8 people who are working from home. That's a variety of, again, a remote parent, a remote para who might be supporting a student, a teacher. You could have anybody in a professional role who's able to support the school by working from home.
And how many of the 4 on leave are teachers?
At the middle school, I don't believe there are any. And then the number to look for is the total staff that are out. So it's the 4 on leave. And there were 4 out sick today for a total of 8 out of the building. So that number is important to keep track of.
Yeah.
You'll also notice student absence rate at the middle school has been pretty decent. There really are not too many students who are out. And so that's a combination of remote students who are not attending remote sessions, but also in-person students who are out. So
the
pretty
4
strong number there.
The 4 sick from LMS, non-COVID related or non-COVID concern?
I believe that's the case, Brian. It changes daily, but there are cases where, trying to see, you look at like the 5 that occurred a few days ago, and then you'll notice you had a positive case. So, was the person out sick, getting tested or seeing the doctor, et cetera, and then getting confirmed. So it can kind of ebb and flow in that way. The other thing is it's here, but the projections are what's in red. So again, a member of the public who's looking at this, it's really designed to kind of project out, and each day as we go through it, we change the red to kind of the white background and then update the numbers. So then quickly, the high school, a few things to point out here. So the high school's done really well. There are no staff, no students. We're also trying to track the COVID spread so that when a case is identified, if the person knows how they got exposed and how they picked it up, we're tracking it. Is it a community-based thing? Like, I know I got it in the community, or I know I got it at school, or I really don't know how I got this. And going back to the middle school for a second, you can see that their case that popped up this week was an unknown. The person who tested positive was like, I have no clue where I picked this up, at work or out in the community. I just don't know. So we report it as unknown. So we are trying to track that too. We keep hearing very minimal amount of spread in the schools. So we decided to track that and follow it through. And looking at the column of schools, we haven't identified any there. At Griffin, we haven't identified any as school-based spread. And at the high school, we haven't identified any as school-based spread.
Mike, can I
6 students.
just ask the numbers really spiked up for the high school. Did they include their quarantine students by any chance?
Are you talking the student absences?
Yeah.
The kids can pivot between in-school and remote so much easier than at the middle school.
I didn't know if
Yeah.
they included their quarantine students in that one, or if it.
I have asked Bill that question because in our meetings, he's reporting it. So I think that is their daily attendance rate, that sometimes it takes a while to catch up with the period attendance rate. So a student might be marked absent at the start of the day, but join a class late, and then it doesn't get caught up. That's what Bill thinks is going on.
Just ask.
That's Power School.
And he's trying
That's
to,
absolutely Power School.
he's trying to get that tracked down, because he said, again, it shows as I'm absent from school, but I show up to period 2.
Right.
And it's just a housekeeping piece, because his numbers are much higher than the others.
Right.
And it's not a kid who is pivoting to remote because they're remote and attending. If they're remote and they're attending, they should be marked as present.
Well, that's what I was
So-
wondering. Liz says they can
Well,
pivot.
if my son has a sniffle or anything, I don't want him to go to school. He can stay and he joins in, and they don't have a problem with that. He only has
Right,
two
but if he
classes.
joins in on time, he's not marked as absent.
Right.
If he joins in late, then he's marked as absent.
Right, and I don't know if they correct it or not, and that might still come through. That's a Power School issue, because it'll say he's present second period, and then it gets still added.
And how many staff on leave at the high school?
There are no
That just
leaves
surprised
at the high school. And there are 3 staff members working from home. And I think 3 is people who are going to be working long-term from home. And I will point out, if you go back to the last staff positive on January 5th, at that point, we stopped tracking the person as a positive COVID, because they sort of, they went beyond the 10-day period of COVID. They continue to be on leave, but we moved them over to the sick column. And it's really kind of post-COVID syndrome, if you would. If you read about this, there are ongoing health complications for some people. And our feeling was to keep tracking it as a positive COVID didn't make a lot of sense. So now we just have somebody who has other health issues to track in the sick column, but they're out of the COVID column because they're beyond. I mean, it's honestly, one staff member in particular could be out for another month because of the nature of the health. But to continue to track it as COVID didn't make sense to us. So, because then when a new case comes aware, it looks like we have more cases ongoing than necessary. So
That person you're talking about who's long-term right now, is that COVID related?
it's post. So the person had COVID and now they have what's called post-COVID syndrome. So ongoing health concerns related to COVID. But it's no longer a positive COVID,
Right.
if you would.
And that's what
right?
you're tracking.
Yeah. All right. So that's the example there. And then just a couple of other things to point out.
Can I just, one other question, Mike?
Of
Just-
course.
So like just taking that first line, I can't see from the 4th, it says we had a total of 4 staff out. We really had 10 staff out that day then, correct? Is that, just so I understand? Because we had 4 sick, 4 working from home, 1 quarantined, and 1 positive COVID.
So you had 1 positive person.
1
You have 1
quarantined.
quarantined. There were 4 working from home and 4 sick. So I believe that the 1 quarantined and the 1 positive are in the sick column. Right? So they're accounted for, because all we're adding up to get to the 4. So the 4 who are working from home, we're not counting.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
those 2 count as the sick. Okay.
Yep. And they are part of the sick number.
So-
That's correct.
Ooh, I can actually
We
see the formula.
So we still could have had 8 out.
I mean, technically, there were 8 people out of the building, but 4 were working
But
from
you had
home.
to have 4 subs
Yep.
in the building to watch the class,
And
or
3.
Sometimes there's one teacher who is working from home and the students are attending remotely,
okay.
and they're attending remotely from home for that class. It's
The
working great. We're not going to
formula
upset the
is-
apple cart. It's a whole different beast at the high school to begin with, because kids are coming and going anyway. And so it's very different than it is at the other 2 schools, just
So
because of the nature of the
formula
kids.
is leaves plus PD plus sick equals total staff.
Yep, that is correct. And so they have to be reflected in that sick number,
Okay.
Rob, because they're out. So they're quarantined, counts as sick.
Well, it wasn't so much the high school. It's just when I started thinking of the number, I think was it the elementary school? The numbers could have been huge if that was the case.
It really comes down to the leave column.
Okay.
There were staff at Griffin, and there are staff at the middle school who took a long-term leave. The high school staff, by and large, have not done that. There are, like you see these ones that sort of pop up, that's a personal day. So somebody was on a short-term leave, a personal day leave. And then just very quickly, so the public sees this and you do also, so enrollments. So we've taken 3 snapshots this year. We did a November 16th snapshot, how many students were in person, how many were remote, and then we calculated percentages based on the schools. If you remember, this is getting at the point of 80-20. We're trying to be at 80% in person and 20% remote. On December 15th, as we came off of the Thanksgiving time period that we had taken, we wanted to track it again. Remember, we gave people the opportunities to switch and to pivot, and that's when we ended up with these numbers. So Griffin ended up at 65-35. The middle school was at 63-37, and the high school was at 73-27. And then what we're monitoring right now are the predictions. So after doing the survey and saying, okay, time to recommit for either the time period of up until February vacation, or the high school asked for a longer commitment. They asked for the third quarter commitment. Based on that, what are we projecting? And that's what Tom was speaking to tonight. You can see that we think the elementary school is going to be at 84-17. Doesn't add up to 100% because we're going off of October 1st numbers and we've enrolled kids. So that's why you're off by a slight percentage. So don't worry about it. But they're predicted to pick up more students in person. The middle school is at 73-26 and the high school is at 86-14. So the high school has been pretty steady between the semesters. I think you're right. I think Griffin's number has shifted more than we were predicting, but we will make it work. I am tracking here vaccine rates across, and I haven't updated this since January 13th, but these are national vaccine rates. And it's basically the percent of the population that has gotten the first dose, right? And so I'm tracking this because I had mentioned to the board at one point that I was concerned New Hampshire was trailing Maine and Vermont. To me, we should have as many shots in the arm as other northern New England states. We have similar problems to deal with as they do in Maine and in Vermont. And I think we should be fairly similar. So I'll keep an eye on this and try to keep this as updated as we can. We actually gained between my last report and this one. So New Hampshire is getting more shots in arms, which is a positive. The last thing is I said, let us track what days have we been remote this year so that we have it all in one spot, because we're doing an awful lot of, hey, what were those dates that the elementary school went out again? So here you can see the dates listed. So on October 9th, LMS had 1 day of remote, and that was grade 5 only. And that was the day that we learned there was a 5th grade case. And we said, better safe than sorry. Let's have all 5th graders stay home tomorrow. We'll do our contact tracing. And then based on that, on the 9th through the 21st, we were able to bring all the cohorts back except for cohort 5A. So once we isolated it down, we said, all right, this is the cohort that we want to have stay out. So they had 8 days of remote learning.
And so the first day was, it was grade 5. I didn't think it was LMS, but okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I remember, didn't we have a couple cohorts at GMS close in kindergarten? And I think kindergarten was like the first week of school. And then some in first grade too, some of the classes.
Let me go back and ask Dan Mitchell that question because it's not on here, but you're right.
That is true.
We had that initial kindergarten case, and that was all the way back to like September 10th or something. So
yeah, that's the one I was thinking about. Yeah.
And then all the first grade classes, we had that cluster in first grade, and I thought we had some classes pivot.
Let me just make a note of it. 8th grade. Your kids are in 8th, right?
Yes.
And you'll see that again on October 15th, there were 7 days that we were out at Griffin. That was really all the grades. That was after that cluster that got identified. That might have been the first grade cluster, but I'm not positive on it. So by tracking it this way, and then you can see the high school actually had nothing out until the November 30th to December 11th time period when we took the 10 days. So the 2 weeks after Thanksgiving break was the first time the high school encountered it. So basically we add up how many remote days have there been at the school. Keep in mind, it doesn't apply to all students at the school, because if it was just 5th grade, for example, but we're adding it in because it means that remote learning was impacting the school at some point. How many days have we been in session? And then what is our percent of in-person? And I'll be straightforward. When I saw the percentages, it surprised me because we've done a pretty good job. I felt really good about where we've been, but when you see the percentages, they come in a little bit lower than I'm comfortable with. And so I'm glad that we're back in person at this point. And I think getting the data in front of us is helpful so that we can track it and see it. So that's all the information that's here in the spreadsheet. If the board has suggestions or other data points that you think are helpful, let us know. We'll definitely update the link. We'll keep it updated in February. We'll add some of these other sheets in so that people can continue to see those track as we're working our way through it.
I think one stat that we're going to want to start tracking is the vaccine rate of our staff.
Yes.
But can you do that?
So a couple of things.
Company is doing it.
I don't care. I don't want my boss to know whether I get it or not.
Well, maybe it's probably
Well,
volunteer.
I think it's FERPA, isn't it? It's none of your business. HIPAA, yeah, sorry.
So according to legal, because it's in a pandemic, that it is something that we could track. So we have a staff member today who handed us in a photocopy of their COVID card.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know how this works, you go to get the shot and they write it down. Dose number 1, which vaccine did you get? Because there are different vaccines. I think a third one's about to become available. They write it right down. They write down the number of the vaccine and they put the date. And then shot number 2, the follow-up shot, they record all of that on there, and now you have a card. So
I'm just paranoid.
it's going to be important for us to track because things like I've now traveled out of New England, but I have the vaccine, so the need to quarantine is not the same for a vaccinated person as a non-vaccinated person.
And we can't make staff get it. It's their personal choice.
So there are some employers that are mandating the vaccine. I think that's really fraught with a deep conversation because there are a variety of reasons why people don't get the vaccine. And then you add other layers of tracking on top of it. So for right now, we're not having a conversation or coming forward with a recommendation to require vaccines. But if somebody is saying, I travel, but I don't have to quarantine because I have the shot, we are going to say, prove that you have the shot, right? Because otherwise, out of an abundance of caution, they shouldn't be coming into work until we know that they are in fact covered. So
Speaking of
You're not going to get it.
going on vacation, do we have what's going to happen after February vacation?
school.
We're not doing a cool off week? I mean, it's a big question in my district as well.
So I got my first text from another superintendent who said, what are you thinking after February vacation? And I said, I'm not there yet. Right now, our intent is to open school after February vacation. There may be some families who travel. They will have to have personal responsibility to quarantine. And, we'll see.
Will
We'll
they
see
have
where
to
we are.
notify the school if they're at GMS? I'm just thinking for the teachers, let's say that the Hirschbergers decide to travel and those boys aren't coming back. It's their responsibility to tell the 8th grade team, Scott and Nick aren't coming back. Can you hand us our work?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. That's really the family responsibility. It's not
It's
unlike.
fair to the teacher, not to cut you off. It's not fair to the teacher to say, we're not here. Give me my work.
And it's the same thing as the family that, we booked our flight, but we're coming back on Tuesday. So, Nick and Scott aren't going to be here on Monday and Tuesday. Can you give us the work?
Mhm.
So it's the same expectation that families have always had to
7 days
keep everybody informed.
with the negative test, 10 days, no test to come back into school.
10 days.
10 days?
Yep.
No, 7 days?
Correct.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. It's 10-day quarantine.
Okay.
So these are the numbers. This is our current situation. And, you know, I think there's a difference between the amount of Thanksgiving holiday, Christmas and New Year's, the amount of travel, college students. There was just an awful lot going on relative to those holidays. February vacation is a different animal altogether. So, you know, a lot of people have reported that they're foregoing trips. You know, the annual trip to Disney is not going on this year. You know, I'm not taking the annual visit to South America for my wife's family. We've resigned ourselves to Google Meets in Espanol, and that's just the way it's going to be. So I think a lot of people are doing exactly the same thing, and you know, we'll be okay with February vacation. We'll monitor it. We'll see what the numbers are as we get closer. But right now, the numbers are trending, by the way, in the right direction. They're getting better. We're into moderate spread in New Hampshire, no longer substantial spread. So it's positive.
All right. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Any questions on the manifest? They all have enough signatures, Liz?
Yes.
Right.
Did you?
That'll bring us to community forum.
So I have pulled up the Google Meet, and I am not seeing anybody waiting, but if we want to give it a minute.
No, I think we gave them some time to get on.
All right.
No one
Mike,
there.
can I just ask, are you maintaining those spreadsheets?
So each morning in our COVID briefing, we do that as a team. So we have a Google Meet. The principals are all in it. They have shared that with their nurses. So basically, they're collecting data all morning long. We get together at 10 o'clock, which is plenty of time to figure out where we are. And then we update that sheet and know where we sit.
Working in schools, I'd like to thank your whole team, because that's great that you guys have that. I don't know if a lot of districts have that to that detail.
You're very welcome. To me, it focused our conversations, because it was like, who belongs in that column? You know, what exactly is going on? So it's really been helpful for us to do. We've tweaked it month by month. I think we've got it about where we want it at this point.
We keep adding information too, which is great too. All right. Nobody's joined.
Nobody's joined.
Okay, we'll close.
So I will end the call.
Close community forum. That'll bring us to go into non-public session, RSA 91-A:311. Brian's yes. Liz,
Yes.
Yes.
Tara,
Yes.
Rob,
I'm sorry, yes.
Tina.
Yes.
So now a non-public.